rise up, sing loud, celebrate, and be proud. Ayo,
Can't hear anything. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Thanks for being here today. For Indigenous Peoples Day here in Olympia. And my name is Raven Redbone. Just wanted to maybe if get Uncle Eddie or someone maybe want to send us off, start in a prayer, and we get started. Again, appreciate everybody being here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. The music that we enjoyed was Indigenous Peoples Day song by Mariana Harvey and Itza Sash. My name is Olivia Salazar de Brau, and I'm an inclusion and equity coordinator here at the City of Olympia. So today we gather as a community to honor, to recognize, and to celebrate our First Peoples who have been stewards and protectors of these lands since time immemorial. The Squaxin Island tribe's habitation of what is now Olympia spans thousands of years. The ancestral families who lived and thrived here, named as Techas, and occupied prosperous villages along the shores. Archaeological findings of ancestral artifacts in the area suggest habitation by the Squaxin ancestors since the retreat of the glaciers during the last ice age. Today, the Squaxin people continue stewardship of these ancestral lands from the Deschutes watershed and what is now Bud Inlet. The Stechas, Squaxin, continue to call themselves people of the water because of the bounty of the region's waterways, which have sustained the people for millennia. Before we get started, I want to recognize and to thank Raven Redbone, a local Indigenous community member who has been instrumental in coordinating this year's event. Thank you, Raven, for your presence and for being willing to connect and share your vision with us. And Raven will be helping MC today's program. So today's agenda will begin with some words from Mayor Selby and Squaxin Island Tribal Chair Peters. And then at 12:30, we will hear from Lucas Anderson on the history of Indigenous Peoples Day in Olympia, followed by a short break. And then at 1 p.m., we will hear from our keynote speaker, Nancy Shippentauer, followed by a closing prayer by Eddie Littlecrow. And for those that need it, closed captioning is also available. Just hit the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen. And also a reminder that we are recording this session and it will be posted on the city's YouTube channel. And now I would like to invite Raven Redbone to open up the celebration and to move us through the rest of our program. Raven.
Oh, thank you. Just want to first say thanks to all the tribes of the state of Washington for allowing me to speak in their homelands. I live in Lacey in Western territory and Nisqually's territory. So I want to thank them for allowing me to speak today and just say quick blessings, pray for each and every one of us, as they say, the doorway in, the doorway out. And in this time that all of us are experiencing very heavy, and just want to send prayers and blessings to each and every one of you, and to acknowledge everyone that's here today, and that we do, as Uncle always suggests, be kind, caring, and loving towards one another, and help where help is needed. And again, I just really appreciate the time to be here today, and I don't want to talk that much. I just really appreciate these elders that are here today and the wisdom that's being shared, because I myself could not be who I am today without all you guys. I mean, and I think of Nancy, your mom, and everything that happened at Zappadan, and the importance of the Northwest. And I could not be here today without you and your family. And I just raised my hands up, and I just want to acknowledge that. And I thank thank you all for being here today. And I'm going to let Mayor Selby take it over. And again, thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Raven, and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on behalf of the Olympia City Council. Welcome to this this momentous day where we finally are having a celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day. Even though we've recognized it for the last 5 years, this is the first gathering of its kind. I want to thank Olivia for pulling this together for all of us. So I am the mayor of the city of Olympia, and I'm pleased that we're here together in this safe virtual environment to honor this important moment. The Olympia City Council first recognized the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day back in 2015. So now this is our 5th year of celebrating. We were honored then, and we're honored now to celebrate the importance of the history, experiences, and contributions of the first peoples who have been stewards and occupants of this land since time immemorial. The Olympia City Council understands that our work with the Indigenous community is deeper and more meaningful than only one Monday a year. In fact, last week on October 7th, the Olympia City Council and the Squaxin Island Tribal Council entered into a new accord that formalizes the bond of respect and friendship between our two governing bodies. It lays out a shared commitment to work in harmony for the economic, environmental, and cultural future of both of our communities. We are charged under the Accord to work together on several long-term actions, including supporting economic and infrastructure opportunities, responding to the threat of climate change, and promoting a healthy exchange of cultures through public art and community service. The Accord also builds in a process to sustain our relationship by ensuring that we revisit and renew the Accord every 5 years to evaluate our progress and processes, update the priorities and actions, and celebrate our successes. Our two councils will soon be establishing an intergovernmental work group to advance the commitments to the Accord, to develop a strategic plan, and to grow and nurture the communication between the two sovereigns. When we signed the Accord last week, we also raised the Squaxin Island tribal flag over Olympia City Hall. The flag is recognition that as Olympians, we are living, working, and raising our families on the ancestral lands of the Squaxin. I'm proud to say that the flag is now a permanent part of the Olympia City Hall flag display alongside the flags of the United States, Washington State, and the city of Olympia. Today, we honor Indigenous Peoples Day, but tomorrow and beyond, there is much work to do, and the Squaxin Island tribe are great partners that will help us get that work accomplished. The city of Olympia is so fortunate to have such a strong tribal partner. So thank you all again for being here today and joining us as we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day in Olympia.
Thank you, Mayor Selby. Appreciate that. And I don't want to talk long, like I said. I don't want to take away from folks, but I'm very proud to introduce Chairman Chris Peters. Just want to say that he's one of the kindest and most beautiful people that I've had the privilege to call myself. Just appreciate.
So I don't know if I cut out or you cut out, but is it my turn to speak?
Yeah, it's your turn. Sorry.
All right. Appreciate that, Raven, my good friend and brother, Raven Brian. Love you, man. And how tubes chalub and hot shalhel, everyone. Twal Gwalapu, Gwalapu TD shed Klabash Teetsta, Chris Peters Teetsta, Squaxin Chud. Just said thank you to everybody here and good day to all of you. My friends, family, and relations. My name is Klabash, was named after my great-great-grandfather who lived in this area a long time ago. And my Anglo-American name is Chris Peters. And I'm a proud citizen of Squaxin Island tribe. And I'm also proud and honored to serve the Squaxin people as their council chair. It's interesting, my grandfather Kalbash, when he got sent off to boarding school, they didn't like the name Kalbash. It's too hard for them. So they changed his name to Peter. And his kids, he ended up changing it to last name to Peters. And so that's how we have our last name now, is due to that. But anyways, thank you all for this time, and appreciate an opportunity here. Brian, if you don't mind, if I could just take a moment to thank our creator and just have a few words. And so if we could just take a second. Creator, I'm thankful for this day. I'm thankful for this life. Thankful for all things. Thankful for the sky, the air, the ground, the sun, plants, and the trees. I'm thankful and honored to share this life with our four-legged friends and our two-legged, our airborne friends, and our friends of the water. I'm honored to share this world with them, and will continue to fight for those who don't have a voice in our current society. Creator, continue to guide my heart and my mind and my soul in a good way. I strive to make my ancestors proud and to leave this world in a better place for future generations. Thank you for bringing us together today on Indigenous Peoples Day. Guide us all in honoring the Indigenous people who steward these lands since time immemorial. Let's remember those who suffered great loss due to colonization and the many assimilation acts, and help us heal ourselves and others through the generational trauma that still lingers among our people, and guide us as we move forward. Protect our spirit, make our minds, body, spirit one with each other, and we'll all be well in this life. Thank you, Creator. Hey, Shabbat, thank you. Again, thanks for allowing me to speak today. I do live in West Olympia on the traditional lands of the Squaxin people, and I often say that Squaxin was originally 7 bands of people who lived throughout the Salish Sea. 2 of those bands, the Squeatl and the Stachas, I've got direct lineal descent, and it's important that wherever you're at, you need to recognize that it was originally inhabited prior to our current society, and tribes are not defined by the borders of the current reservations that were established by the federal government. Millions of acres were ceded, millions of acres of land to the federal and state government. I like to use the example of like the Wenatchee area, for instance. If you're living in Wenatchee, you may not be next to a reservation. You may not know that area was inhabited by a band of people called the Wenatchee. And just north of that were the Eniat. And those individuals, they were placed on a reservation, on the Colville Reservation, back during treaty time. And so it's important that everyone keeps a broad mindset that these reservations do not define who we are. That's where we were placed, and these borders were placed upon us. The reality is we lived in vast areas and waterways and acres of land that we stewarded and lived at one with for many, many years. And so I ask people to do some research, talk to your local tribal governments, find out where they were originally, and learn who they are. Like for instance, the Squaxin, as I stated before, the island was a land that we were put on, but it does not encompass who we are. We lived throughout the South Salish Sea. And unfortunately, our Indigenous friends, family, and ancestors had to overcome many hardships: colonization and disease and genocide, termination and assimilation. And the state government, the state and federal government did these things to rid us of our lands and tear us away from our tribal ways, while we watched the systematic destruction of our environment. But we are still here today in this day of self-determination, stronger than ever, making our way as sovereigns in today's society, bringing back our culture, our tradition, and our ways. And again, remember that we're still here. As tribal people, we are connected to the land. The land is truly sacred to us. And when I'm walking on my traditional homelands or on the water, I can feel my ancestors. I really can. They're with me. And that means so much to me because I want to make them proud. And when I do a land recognition or I do things like involved in an event like this, I personally like to think back to hundreds of years ago before colonization. I picture this land, and I ask you all to do the same thing. Picture it before all these buildings and roads and all this technology, and take a look at the beautiful forests. Look at the prairies, look at the waterways, and how beautiful and bountiful it is. I picture the people living here with all the wealth in which they had, living as a collective at one with their environment. They did not feel better than or more important than any part of it, but were one equal part of the environment, living as a collective, as clans and as a tribe, and everything they did. Education, food, family, survival, they were not individualistic. They flourished in unison with their surroundings successfully for thousands of years. And I ask you all to take time throughout your day, wherever you are, to think about the lands which you're currently on, where you're standing. And again, picture the beautiful forests, the prairies, and waterways, and acknowledge those Indigenous people who have stewarded this land since time immemorial, and who still inhabit these lands today. With that, I thank all of you. Eshaba, Kisquo, Hawatubs Chalub. Thanks to all of you. My hands go up to you, and Raven and Olivia, for holding this event, hosting it. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Well, Sam, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Peters. I knew I was going to say that one day. We all did, and all of us. So thanks for being here today and sharing your words and your heart. And I appreciate you. And that reminder to really dig deep and stay in your heart and listen. I do appreciate it. So again, we're gonna move forward and let Lucas Anderson speak a little bit. Lucas is a local activist here and also hosted a show back in the day called Mold Medicine. And I wanted to give him space because him and G.W. Galbraith, who is another host of a radio program called View from the Shore here at Chaos, were here long before this guy got here. And we're doing all this work prior. And I remember them being some of the only people down in the streets protesting and talking about changing the name and all the things that we're talking about today. And I just want to give him space to share a little bit of the history with us and thank him for holding that space for us all. Myself will be here today to help keep moving these things forward. Lucas?
Hi, can everyone hear me okay? Thank you. First of all, thank you everyone that's here. Appreciate everybody being here today. My name is Lucas. I'm just a human being. Doing my best. A few years ago, I was feeling some way when I saw the word Columbus Day on the Olympia calendar. And it just got under my skin, I was feeling some way. I just was like, why, how are we still doing this? How are we still celebrating this day in these times when we should know better? And it just seemed kind of like a no-brainer. It seemed real obvious that this was something that not only needed to be changed, but it's the kind of thing that we actually could probably pull off changing, where a lot of things in the world seem too big, too massive, too hard to move, too big to change. It seemed like something we could move. So that's why myself and some other people got kind of motivated. And at the time, there was a movement on the national level. And so there was some momentum behind us too. So a few of us figured out what we needed to do. And so we went to city council and we went to a meeting. We packed a city council meeting with a bunch of folks that were interested in the same thing. It was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful moment. Very emotional moment. Because what's the root of all this is reconciliation. And what's at the root of all this is the desire to heal, the desire to make things better for our children and to not continue to pass on the trauma. And to us, Columbus Day being a holiday was a really offensive way of reminding us of the trauma. And what we wanted to do was create a day that wasn't about the trauma, but was about the healing, that was about the future, not about the past. While the past is important to tell the story of, the future is also important to create. And although we have been through so much and we hear a lot about how Native people have suffered, we also are very resilient. We also continue to go on and we find ways to move forward. And one of those ways was to get rid of this holiday and replace it with something that was more like an affirmation of ourselves than a reminder of our trauma, an affirmation of who we are. At that first city council meeting, at first there was a few city council members that were resistant to what we were doing. And that was interesting at the time. I wonder if those people would still feel that way now. But I say that not to embarrass them, but to show people that we were still met with some amount of ignorance still when we brought this forward. It wasn't self-evident to everybody that this was a good idea. And so this was necessary. That's why I'm saying this, because we were up against a certain level of ignorance, even within the city government, around why this really wasn't a good idea to celebrate this as a holiday as a city. Also, as Mayor Shelby laid out, the city has a very close relationship, especially with the Squaxin Island people. And so this is another gesture of reconciliation. And these are important gestures. They may seem small to some or insignificant or just some kind of paper holiday thing. But on the energetic level, it shifts things from, like I said, trauma to creating the future. What are we going to do next? What are we going to do together, not separate? And Indigenous Peoples Day is about inclusion. It's about bringing people together. It's about asking ourselves, who are the people in my community that are Native? Who are the people that I live next to as neighbors that are Native? This day opens the door for all this questioning and all this curiosity, you know, rather than what did Christopher Columbus do or didn't do. So it is significant. It is important. And it's a domino effect. These are small little things we do that all add up to a bigger thing going on. And that's the reconciliation and the healing of hundreds of years of trauma. And I fully support the city of Olympia doing whatever it can do to reconcile certain things that have happened in this city. And there's still a lot of work to do around that, but that's okay. It doesn't have to all happen at once. Things unfold as they do, and the movement happens when people are ready to move. But there's some work to do around Olympia, around reconciling with the murder of Chief Leshai and his brother. And there's names around town that could be changed on streets, and there's still things that could be done. You know, but that's exciting, and it's not an indictment of anything. It's more of an invitation for us to continue this work, because really just changing Indigenous Peoples Day's name, or Columbus Day's name to Indigenous Peoples Day, is just really one thing we've done, and there's so much more yet we could do. so I want to offer that this is just the beginning of all the little ways we can find to heal what all of our ancestors have been through and have done. And I want to honor the folks from Quinault that came out here, a mother and a son. I can't remember their names. But I get emotional. But the son was a young man at the time when we did all this. And that young man had some great words to say. It's things like this that allow our young people to see that they don't have to constantly be a victim of the past, that we aren't defined by our trauma. We can be defined by our resiliency. It gives me great faith to see the youth inspired. And that was really the whole point. Because we're all old guys and we're only going to be around so long. But these children, they're going to have something different to grow up with it. And it's something, a barrier removed in their life that we all had, that they don't have to have. They can have an Indigenous Peoples Day and not Columbus Day. And I'm proud of Olympia. I'm proud of all the people that were involved. And I'm proud to see that this work continues and goes on, and in the respect that the city gives to the Squaxin Island people. And I'm very proud to live in this town because of that. I want to thank everyone who came today to share in this. I was just one person. I had a vision. The vision was strong enough that other people thought they should be a part of it too. But it's not about one person, it was about the vision. And the vision's still there, and it hasn't stopped. It keeps growing and expanding. And I look forward to joining all of you in whatever comes next in the future. And I look forward to seeing where the children will take all of this. With that, thank you very much today for having me as a guest. And I appreciate my brother Brian for inviting me and for facilitating this today. Brian has been one of the most tireless people in Olympia when it comes to standing up for Indigenous people's rights and way of life, and also one of the few people in our community who gives a platform for people's voices to be heard. And I encourage people to support his radio program and to be curious about it and check in on it, because if you want to know what's going on with your neighbors, my brother Raven Redbone here is one of the people talking to them and putting it out there for you. So that's one of the ways you can find out more about what's going on. And he's been doing that for quite a while and doing a great job. And so I just wanted to encourage my brother here and thank him today for his work. And really all of you here are amazing people. And I feel honored and humbled to be on this panel. So appreciate it, and blessings to all of you. And thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Lucas. Appreciate it. And yeah, it's amazing to be connected to yourself and the many others that have worked tirelessly to make this work happen. And like you said, there's lots to be done. And I want to be a part of that healing process. And today is one of those days when my heart is happy, and I'm so blessed to be able to introduce my Aunt Nancy Chippenthaler from Puyallup Nation. And I said earlier, her family, oh my God, the reason why we can be here, the McLeod House and Zappadan and the American Indian movement itself resonated in Yelm at Nancy's house. And I know that she has seen many and talked to many, and her mother was amazing. And that's the next step, is getting a Janet McLeod Boulevard in downtown Olympia somewhere. and we have lots of work to do. And the women have been holding that candle since the dawn of time. And Nancy's one of those people that I feel blessed to call you Auntie, and like you give me strength all the time, and your words are always encouraging and uplifting. And so thanks for being here today and sharing with us, Aunt Nancy. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Raven. Thank you all. I listened to Chris Peters and Lucas, and I really like how they spoke about Indigenous people. I've been on this path since I was a little girl, when my dad went to jail when I was 8 years old for fishing rights. And they took up the campaign when he was the youngest master sergeant in World War II. And he escorted a Japanese up on a ship to sign their treaty. And he was standing, and this other guy looks at him and goes, you guys have treaty rights too, just like this. And he come back, and they're pushing on the Squally River. At that time, we actually could fish anywhere. We moved up and down with the salmon. Where the salmon went, our people went. And anyway, he got thrown in jail with his brother and other people, and I went to visit him, and I started crying when I seen them, and crying hard. I didn't think I could never touch my dad, And it was really an experience. Somebody asked me, what is the worst experience you remember in your life? And I said, well, my dad went to jail. And he told my mom, don't bring any kids here anymore, because we know that at home they don't have no food. They don't have no heat. They don't have nothing, because all the men were in jail. And my mother had eight children. And so it was a bad time for us. They went fishing, and they arrested them, but they wouldn't put them in jail because they knew that the children didn't have nobody, just their parents, their mothers. But today I want to talk a little bit about the Zappadan Center. My mother had a vision, like you do, like everybody does. And she stepped back from the fishing rights and went on a spiritual path and started bringing spirituality back here to the West Coast. And people would tell her, that's not our way. That's not our way. And my mother said, well, what is our way? And they just looked at her. She goes, this is our way because it's the only way. And so she proceeded to do that. John Tudell, Dennis Banks, Russell Means, the chief of Cherokee. She was, what's her name? Wilma Mankiller. My mom was her mentor. Winona LaDuke. All these people had came to my mother's place and had sat with my mother. And Dennis Banks tells a story about AIM was never created in Minnesota. It was created at the table of Janet McLeod's home. That's where it came from. The fishing rights came, then Alcatraz came, and then Wounded Knee came. That's the way it came. Oh, we have Daybreak Star, I went to Stockade for a little while. That was funny. My mother said, don't you get out of this car. You stay in this car. Where everybody's getting out and going someplace. And I thought, me and my friend would get up and everybody's gone. And she goes, let's climb the fence. So we climbed the fence, and pretty soon these soldiers came by and picked us up and took us to the stockade. And that's where everybody was. And I told this attorney, would you tell my mother, Janet McLeod, I'm in here? And he went out. My mother said, no, she's not. She's in the car sleeping. He goes, oh, she told me to tell you she's in here. And so she went to check on the car and I was gone. But I mean, I grew up in a very blessed home. I was blessed to meet all these people, to have them in part of my life. But the thing that holds us back in these court hearings, in these federal governments, in the Congress and Senate, is the doctrine of discovery, the manifest destination of our people, where we're subhumans. We're still looked that way from the Catholic Church, where you can see what they did to our children. My husband was one of those children that had the blue hands. And you know, he told me one time, he said, his dad, he would go, he was a migrant worker, and he'd go and come home, and my husband was hiding his hands. He goes, let me see your hands. And he goes, son, get over here, let me see your hands. And his hands were blue from being beaten. And he was raped by the priest. And he didn't tell his dad that. He told me that before he died. And so when his dad seen his hands, he went down there and pulled all his kids out of school. And his mother was so upset with them because she felt they needed a Catholic upbringing. So it's kind of tragic, you know, how the news don't talk about this. The news don't talk about women that are missing in these man camps or in these reservations. You know, they talk nothing about the indigenous people. And I read that manifest, or that Hitler's book. And in there it says, when he made the final solution for the Jews, he said, well, if America can do it to the Indians, then I could do it to the Jews. What's the difference? You know, and so if you look at today's world, what's going on in the world, it's still happening in these countries, South America, Africa. You know, they're stealing these billionaires are just raping the planet. And nobody's doing nothing about it. You know, we have the International Treaty Council, you know, we have a seat at the UN, but nobody listens to these people that come in and tell them you need to stop the genocide of our indigenous people. And they don't do much. Look at the slaughters that have been committed down there. But you know, I've had a lot of teachings, you know, the people that have been in my life, the Six Nations clan mothers, you know, Leon Shenandoah, Oren Lyons, Audrey Shenandoah, you know, they've all been a part of my life. Thomas Piñaca, who talked, you know, you talk about these prophecies. And I love Thomas. I mean, I met him when I was 12, and he's like my uncle, a little tiny Hopi man. And he talked about these prophecies when I was young. And he had this voice that would put you to sleep, you know. He had his map, and he'd show his map. And every time he'd come up, we'd have to sit and listen to the prophecies. And in my mind, I'm thinking, this stuff isn't going to happen. None of this is going to happen, you know. But a couple of things that was the price of bread, the price of gas, you know, the women leaving their children, and then the gay movement that came on, and you know, all this stuff that happened, and then men would become women and women would become men, and that's happening today. And so every time something would happen, I'd remember that. And we were going to Pendleton, and this woman took her 3 kids and threw them in the river over the Bridge of Gods. And I thought, how could that happen? How could a mother do that? And he had said that women would abandon their children. They would start killing their children. And nobody would know why. Well, it's an environment we live in. You know, if you look at everything on TV, it's violent. You know, they say, oh, we're going to tell you a story about these deaths that happen or whatever happens. And they show it on TV. And so the mind is being programmed with all this death and destruction. You know, it's being programmed with that. And these games that they're playing, you know, I mean, and then he said they'd walk around like skeletons. And they are. If you look at our young people today, they're all real skinny because they lack exercise. They lack the right nutrients. They lack being outdoors and running and doing things. They don't do that today. They just sit on their phones. And that's what they do. When I try to talk to young people, the first thing I do is pick up the phone. They're good like that all the time. So then how can you talk to them? How can you make them see? The time I get my grandkids' attention is when I'm driving, when I have them in my car by myself, and I make them put their phones away, and I will start talking to them. You know, we have Indian schools that don't really teach our history. How's that? You have Indian schools that don't really treat or teach that history. I mean, in Yelm, we have Hanford McLeod that goes up there. I mean, he'll go up there and teach them things, show them things. And he does that with the schools up here in Yelm. And I don't know what goes on in Olympia and Lacey, but I know that ours don't. I have grandkids that go there, and I ask them, what did you learn about your tribe today? Well, nothing. And then it's sad when your tribe just hands out this money when people are upset. Oh, with throw them a few shekels. It's like they hang around the fort, and it used to be years ago when they'd hang around the fort for a few scraps. You know, that's what our people do today. I mean, it's nice to get that kind of money, but what's the value of your child when they're drug addicted? What's the value of the home when their parents are high on drugs or drunk all the time? What is it? You know, I remember when Mommy had these conferences at her home or up in Seattle, or, you know, she just had them. And, you know, Dennis and John Trudell and mine and Lanza, all these people would come. Rose O'Shea, all these elders would come and they would talk to us. We had women, like somebody said, how come we don't have somebody to talk to our children about the importance of breastfeeding their child or putting their child in a baby board, you know, or not taking your child out for 6 weeks after they're born, keep them at home? How come we don't have that? And how come nobody's talking to them like this? And so anyway, I was trying to do that, but I don't know, who am I? You know, like I say, we should start something like this, you know, come and help me. Everybody just kind of looks at me like, oh, I'm busy. Oh, I got this going on, you know. And so I talk to my own kids. I talk to my own grandkids. I'm talking in here, please. And so I tell them, I have a lot of great grandkids, a lot. like 13. And so my family's getting really big. And these little guys, I'm trying to think of when I seen old people. Did I get scared of them? Because mine take a long time to come up to me. They're like, oh, you know, like, oh no. They call me Kayet though. I have one that calls me Kai. And she's like the little one. I mean, she's she's gonna be very radical when she gets older. She demands time. She demands your time, whether you want to give it to her. She's gonna get it. She's like 2 years old. And so, but you know, I had a great life. I just had a real good life. I went back and, you know, went with Willie when met James Taylor and Brown, Jackson Brown, and Barbara Streisand, and all these people getting these awards. You know, I went to the White House. I got to tell you the story. I went to the White House. I've never actually been in the White House. And I was sitting there and all these pictures of all these murderers were on the wall, all of them. And I started getting sick, like sick. And I was coughing and gagging. And David Bean was sitting by me and I was like over and everybody's looking at me, is she okay? And I was coughing. And I told David, I need some water. And the White House staff says, oh, she might spill it. We're not going to give her water. And he goes, well, would you rather have her throw up on the rug? And that guy said, no. He said, well, get her some water. So they brought me some water. And I still had that thing right here. It just would not leave. And I told David, this place is evil. This is the most evil place I've ever been into. I don't see how these people can live here. It's just evil. Reeks of evil. And so we got up, and when it was over, we walked out and, you know, took pictures with a few celebrities. And then I had to just get out of that place because I kept like, but there was a short woman. She had a twin. She's been a congresswoman for over 30 years. Did I know about it? No. I can't remember where she's from, but all these people that have never been honored, like James Taylor, you know, that have never been honored were honored that day. That no Republican senator would have honored them, you know, or president, but Obama honored all of them. I was happy about that. And afterwards, we went to a nice dinner, this place where they cut the meat off. Cuban place. A whole bunch of us was in there. They said, eat, 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 eat. And we're eating. Then the bill came, and I said, can I look at it? They said, no, don't show her. Don't show her. Oh my God, I thought, oh my God, I could have paid my house payment 2 times that money. But you know, all I can do is like, you know, I have diabetes and I have trouble sometimes. I can't take that CBD because it gives me cramps in my legs. And so I just, every morning I get up and I make myself go. You got to get up and go. Just get up and go. And don't stop, just go. And so that's what I do. I'm actually a director of 140 divers, the director of shellfish in our area. And we've got 140 divers who deal with crab and clams. And we're thinking about getting in the seaweed business. But I think our tribes have come a long way. I liked what Chris Peters said, talking about, you know, kind of grounding yourself and remember who the people are. Don't forget who you are. And, you know, He did really good. Well, and thank you for inviting me today. I hope I was interesting, Raven. I remember going to Raven's TV show or radio show, Chaos. And I said, Raven, I have a hard time talking to you in the back of your head. You know what it's like to talk to somebody when they got their back to you?
I turned around.
Yeah. Because, and then John Trudell, he was really a soft guy, you know. It was really a tragedy what happened to his family. And nobody ever mended his heart like that. How do you mend a broken heart? My mom, she was just so sad about what happened to him. But, you know, we just buried my grandson's mother the other day. And I felt so bad for them. Then you watch all these young people dying and you wonder, why are they dying? Why? What is it? Here's from those drugs. You know, in Nisqually, they started kicking the drug dealers off their land, which I think is a very powerful statement. We don't want you guys here no more. We're gonna do something about it. And over in Six Nations, I know they do that too. Like, you guys can't come here. So, you know, we just gotta be powerful like that. Then you have the tribes who have nothing, like the Lakota Sioux, Standing Rock, you know. I was gonna buy this buffalo coat. Oh, it was beautiful. Just a beautiful buffalo coat. And that's when Standing Rock was going on. And I had been over there twice already. And my husband goes, where are you gonna wear that to? And it went all the way down to my feet. It just fit me perfect. And I said, I might go back to Standing Rock. And it was in the wintertime. I didn't go, but I was thinking about the other day. I should have just bought that anyway. I should have just bought it. I could have had the kids wrap me up in it when I passed away, right? I'd have a buffalo coat. So, but you guys have a good day. Thank you for listening to. Remember, look up that Manifest Destination and Doctrine of Discovery. You know, it's really important that we get the church to rescind that doctrine. And so maybe you can bring it up on your chaos. But, you know, I don't get chaos up here.
We'll start sending you the links. We got to get Jody to do another program with Manifest Destiny, and because he's doing a lot of work around it. Yeah, Jody Gowdy.
Yeah, Jody Gowdy. Yeah. Well, you guys have a good day. I have another appointment I have to go to. Mm-hmm. Love you all.
Love you too. Take care. Thank you so much.
Great.
I appreciate Nancy's words as always, and like someone said in the chat box, she keeps it real. That's what I love about her. She like and tell you like it is. So again, thanks Nancy for sharing with us, and we're here at the end.
But you know, Raven, people get insulted by that when I tell the truth. I'm serious. Like, they don't like to hear the truth.
Yeah, because then they have to be responsible, right?
Have a good day. Thank you.
You too. That's what it is. Like, once they know the history, they have to be responsible. And this was in a program today at my job where I showed the film When It's All Over We'll Still Be Indian, about the American Indian Holocaust. And people got to understand what happened in the Americas here. And until they do, we're not going to heal. All these things we're talking about are very important. And I think it's a direct connection to everything that's happening today, you know, with the virus and all kinds of things that are happening. It's all connected. And like she said, people get mad or upset. And I'll apologize if I offend you, but I'm not going to apologize for telling the truth, you know. But I just want people to understand what she's saying is true, and love her for it. So we're here. This fellow needs no introduction, but I love this guy with all my heart. He's the one that truly keeps me grounded and sane, and I don't even have to tell him half the time when I'm in need of something. He sends a crow to my door and knocks on the door, and next thing I'll call him up, and he's already telling me what I need to do. And he's lived through everything. So I would say the longest war that's still continuing, and want Uncle Eddie to share a few words and maybe a prayer and what's on his heart. And also want to remember our relative Leonard Peltier on this day. Solidarity with it and with Leonard and this Uncle Eddie Little Crow. And thank you for being here, Uncle, and sharing with us. And floor is yours. Thank you.
All of you kind, caring people, people who knew me, people who know me, people who have never met me, people who ask about me. I'm from them good old days that Nancy talked about. She may recall that I sat at her mother's kitchen table a lot, drinking coffee and talking about meetings. American Indian Movement sits here looking at you. Leonard Peltier Defense Committee sits here looking at you. The Indian Movement sits here looking at you. Dakota AIM sits here looking at you. I am an Earthman. I started this when I was holding my mother in my arms at 7 years old when somebody had just shot her. I talked about government school, running away, running away, running away, always running away. Nobody has cut this hair. The only person that has cut this hair was my grandmother after I had run away so many times from the government school, boarding school, Catholic school, independent school, education program of this nation's government. You know, it's good to talk a lot. It's good to holler. It's good to speak loudly and politely and friendly with consideration and hope for the future, with knowledge and determination and skill, independent, self-appointed, however the case may be. I quit drinking 68 years ago, 69 years ago. But alcohol still reeks from my system. Dry drunks still occur. You know, it's not influential, it's beneficial to be healthy and strong and lively, full of life. I turned 80 on November 5th. I never ever thought in my wildest dream or most vivid imagination that I would sit here talking to people on a machine about what happened to our world Nancy talked about being 8 years old. The first time I seen an adult jail, I was 6 years old. And it was for running away from that institution, that government school. Put on bread and water, thrown in that cell naked. Nothing to do but wait out my time. I thank good, kind, caring people like Lucas and Nancy and Chris and many, many others. I always tell my nephew to just go into that building, put on them earphones and get going. What could they do? Arrest him again? Well, but there's nothing to be said about seven generations of life, other than, like Nancy said, it's still happening. And it's happening to our children. It's happening to older people's grandchildren. '21. 221 years ago, this country was founded and born. The old republic is still here, still alive and well and strong, still stealing children, still taking children. The disappearing women that Nancy talked about is over 1,000 and still going. They're still taking children from families and raising them in non-Indian families, still today. Every chance I get, I talk like this to people who will listen and pay attention and do something about it. We are the most disappeared people on the face of this earth. We make up 1% of the world populative, and we don't have a voice. There's been congressmen, there's been senators, there's been authors, there's been lawyers, there's been judges, there's been district attorneys, there's been doctors. We have our own businesses, our own schools, our own colleges, and yet we're something else. I've always been something else. I didn't want to be anything else but what I was, an indigenous person of this Western Hemisphere. There are 997 million of us scattered across this universe, give or take a few. As a member of the American Indian movement, I sit on the Council of Elders here in the Pacific Northwest. Council of One. There were 13 on that council. I'm the last one left. And as Cousin John said, that's the name of the game, you know. But I have no more tears to shed. And I quote him a lot. My eyes are dry as dust, and my soul drowns in tears. He lost his whole family just talking. I lost everybody that I loved and cared about just talking. I spent 39 years in their institutions. I've been in every institution this country has, and I'm no less for the wear. Little busted up, but I'm not confused. I know exactly who I am and where I come from. And I speak my language. And this one sitting next to me hears my language. The birds hear my language. The deer hear my language. The animals hear my language. And sometimes I'm cronizing because I got potential. But I like to talk to people. You may not have known that because I'm pretty quiet. I don't say anything. I'm kind of shy. But if I speak at all, they just say hi. You know?
You ain't shy.
Well, you know, I know, like I said at that other Zoom I was on, it's good to know all you people and all the families that I know. The American Indian movement started up there by you. It didn't start in South Dakota. It started in the Four Winds down in Ernie Peters' place, you know, and it moved up to Janet's because it was accessible, you know. The American Indian movement, founders of the American Indian movement, I got a picture. You may not recognize us today, but there's a handful of us still here, alive and well, still doing what we did 60 years ago, and then some. Want some? Come get some. If you don't like me, bite me. No, but I shuck and jive, I rant and rave, I bitch and moan, I complain and bicker, I argue and quarrel. I used to fight, but fighting never got me anything but a good beating, you know. And I got to outthink them. And that's pretty easy because people don't think anymore. You know, they say a lot of things, but they don't mean nothing. So if I could say anything that could be heard worldwide or around the world, you could go around the world in 8 seconds today, you know. And if I could say anything that these people could hear out there in the universe, it would be change how you think, not how you act. Mean what you say. Do what you say. Change your thought, not your attitude and personality. Change your thinking, not your attitude and personality. Be kind and gentle and fair and open and considerate and loving. Be helpful. Help when help is needed. God bless you. I always end my talks or my conversations with thoughts about my cousin Leonard over there in Colton in that elder care unit. You know, he's in there against his will. Sure, he was sentenced, no, but he wasn't convicted. Nobody has been convicted for the killing of them two boys, no. That's just recent, people. It's not long ago that that happened, the incident at Ogallala, no. And what happened in Pine Ridge, what happened in North Dakota, what happened down in California to the Wintu people, you know? What happened up there where you guys live. The American Indian movement started right there. When the Indian people saved that little village that flooded, the Indian people saved the people in their canoes. And the Puget Sound, Hank Adams, no? Billy Frank, Mary Morales. I know all you people. I was this young hothead that come up there with my wolf and my 30-30 to help you. No? Sure, I picked up a gun. But at that time, it was the only thing that this world knew is brute force and violence. No? Sure. So sure, I'm a crazy lunatic, you know, but who is it, you know? So this is...
You're my flavor of crazy, uncle.
So it's an honor to be seen on this video, and this is always for my cousin Leonard. Ilayak taka alas. Desaina klik tana klakitana. Okay, that I like we chosen in the Oklahoma itana. Nisto attack no chena, chandach it in el victana gacha. Chingshi chenta la loca kitchen again I day yach. Naku in el kitchen itin neta. Taka kalakachu theatan veta. Utana gaita, Pakolagitana Gacha. Okiri Tawal Kitchen, Iteana, Balabayan, Ogalago Kitchen, Iteana. Naku and Gluction, like Tena, she chata, Taco, the Turk, that Slorwaka, Iata. Naku and Gilton, Iteana, Tachana, Oglingo Kitchen, a bell Kirito, College, Iteana. Ishiche na tadaka kile shiche achacho kile achacho kongi kile na wana na good lokiche mija wote mtolokiche chanzeka tani eta ni kile okire to la kena chantao chata ala lokiche na girta ne talongela ideano tezerta techo eta in kaglave eta ya pokocha Shesha, Haki, Ideal. Daku chunk the Peter, Ideal. We Olympia Kaku, Magaji, no Joja, Idea. Was there then down of college? Not we all have Poke Kana, done. See, I didn't see in it and get them. Whatever. Loka Kawaka. The Kapia of Hognam. Macau Chachaki to the kitchen. We cherry chum, we chow us down, we chow kitchen, in there, not cool. In there. That on English, in there. Oh, Mitakuye. Yeah. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Uncle. Appreciate it, and appreciate your words and your sharing. And again, I appreciate everybody today for sharing their words and their heart and their wisdom, and for all of us to do better, for our tomorrow, and take that time to learn the truth and to bring it back into the tables that we set on, and move forward in a good way. And that phrase that's always been used by yourself and many others, we do this so that people may live. And we need to continue to do all these things to move forward, and hoping in the future that there's more of a relationship with the city of Olympia, but not just the city, but the surrounding areas. I live in Lacey, the city of Lacey, and many others that will take time and make these relations with our relatives that are here, because the tribes are hosting the United States. It's not the other way around. And again, all the wisdom that was shared here today, I can just say for me, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you, Nancy, Chris, and the many others that have suffered and sacrificed for us to be here today in this virtual world. I just want to say that much. And I don't know if Olivia wants some closing words or anything, but again, thanks everybody for being here and sharing.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. This has been an incredible day to be able to hear from our elders, the truths that we're told. Yeah, really, really honored to be here. So I know earlier we mentioned we were going to have a break mid-program, and we didn't need it. The energy just needed to continue flowing, and I'm just so glad that we did that. I also want to say that I see your messages in the chat, and they've all been so incredibly uplifting. Thank you. To answer one of the questions, we will be posting this recording on our YouTube page. And I saw a request to post Raven's radio show link. So Raven, do you want to tell everybody where they can find your radio show?
I'm not going into chaos like Uncle said. I don't want to get arrested, but I'm waiting to be invited back in a natural flow. But we do some programs from home because I have a recorder, and I put them out on SoundCloud. And there's a lot of past shows. I feel very blessed that of all the people that I've had the honor of sitting with in a sacred space and sharing sacred breath and learning over the last almost 20 years. Doing it, but you can go to ravenredboat.com and everything's on that page. I try to keep it up, but that's a one-person show. But I just again you'll catch all the shows with Uncle. We did with Uncle and many others that are on there. And like I said, I remember one time, just to give you a real quick thing. I had Hank Adams. He said the same thing Nancy did. He said, "Are you going to turn around?" I said, "Yes, I'll turn around." Give me a second. He said, "I don't like talking to you back of your head." And so I turned around, and he talked about Quinault, and talk about history. Like when he crossed, we lost the freaking library. I mean, the guy like Uncle and like many others are gonna forget more than I ever know. He just schooled us, and then I had so many emails from folks. I'm Quinault, and I didn't know all that stuff. That's Hank for you, he just knowing, like Uncle Eddie would always say, listen to the people that lived it, not the people that are writing about it, but the people that actually lived it, and then we can do better. So again, thanks for giving me space to chat. I try not to be so taking up too much time.
No, this was your time. I'm so glad that we made space as we needed to for whatever came forward, whatever was in people's hearts. That's so important. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, we've come to the end of our program. We wish to express our sincere gratitude to our speakers who are willing to share their words and their stories today, for sharing your truth. Thanks to all of our community members who took time out of your schedules to be part of today's celebration. As we close out this space, we'll leave you with a song, Generations by Kalina Lawrence featuring Lil Deya. So again, thank you all so much and be well. And by the way, since we have some extra time today, I encourage you to go out, be in nature, take a breath, and think about Chris Peters' words about remembering. Let's see if we can remember and think back to our generations that were before us. Thank you so much for being here.
Think of the generations who will inherit this nation. Include them in our choices. It's our job to lift their voices. I gotta pay respect to the movement that is hip-hop, the people that create to express how that beat drop, the words of the silence telling stories for a cause. I'm thankful for the artists who stood up to spit how it was. I'm native and I'm peaceful, but I'm tripping like the voyage. Tired of the greed, deceit, destroying earth like we can make it without water or air. She ain't ours, we are hers, and we cannot compare. Our job is to preserve, though we don't deserve to remain. We can't contain our ego, don't live equal, need to reframe. Rich folks make systems of fear and hypocrisy while we subdue the margins of this so-called democracy. I'm native and I'm peaceful, standing rock hard like Dakota. North, south, bring east and west, we're gonna show up. Check your privilege and your comfort, your history and reflect. Don't confuse protect with protest, and instead use the platform for a cause and listen when the earth says, without me those lungs of yours are so gone. Without earth these lungs of ours are so gone. Think of the generations who will inherit this nation. Include them in our choices. It's our job to lift their voices.
These generations feel the same except the lingo and the style. The struggles have built up, it's on the kids to change meanwhile. Brothers in the streets, sisters crying in the sheets. Mama's on the phone saying, what happened, baby? Look at this world we have created. We got needles on the streets. Little kids scared to speak. Hurt so bad it's hard to breathe. Tell me there's not a better way. Give me proof that there's not more to say. Show me all the work you've done. You don't know how far I've come. Should've told me at age 6 that my life was gonna change. People got me pegged for rude, but I'm just trying not to cave. Daddy left when I was 6. System held both of us. Mama played both parts. It broke both of our hearts. Flipped upside down, I've been kicked to the ground. Had to build myself back up to understand I will still fall. Not ashamed of all my past, it has made me who I am. Carry my team on my back and educate on this track. Our destiny is not to manifest anger and pain. Use the voice that you have to help create a better path. Mass incarceration to mass deportations. Police brutality stem from racist mentality. Can't you see the pattern? No dapple, no black snakes, no pipeline, racist hate, no costumes, and no chains. Any outlet that you love, stand up and make a change. Not for the money and the fame, for the generations we create.